What is up, guys? Lildogdog here, and today I'm bringing you a guide for the Giant Mole. Now, the Giant Mole is one of the easiest bosses to kill in RuneScape. The kills only take around 3-4 minutes if you're a low level, and it's a free-to-play boss, so it's definitely really easy. If you're looking for a specific part of this video, just check the description below for a timestamp, but right now we're just going to get right into the skill requirements. These skill requirements are really more of a recommendation, so you can see I have 60 plus combat and your chosen combat style recommended. If you have a lower level than that, like at least 50, you have your rune gear, you'll be able to get a couple kills with the boss, but you're going to want more than that to be able to kill the boss several times in a single trip. So if you have that dragon armor, you're using melee, you'll be fine. If you're using magic, you're just going to want the respective level 60 magic armor or level 60 ranged armor if you're using one of those. However, I am going to recommend that you use magic. Magic is going to give you the best melee defense when you're fighting the mole. And the mole uses melee, so you're going to want that melee defense. Plus, you get the extra bit of range to attack from afar. Even though the boss isn't safe spottable, technically, you can attack from afar for 4 or 5 seconds before you have to move into the melee range. I am going to be using magic during this guide, so if you plan on following the guide to a T, use magic. That way you can follow exactly what I'm doing. Follow my loadout and my ability bar. And then secondly, you're going to want at least 43 plus prayer for protect from melee. This is more of a requirement than a recommendation. The mole can hit pretty hard at certain times of the fight, depending on what stage you're on and what mechanic you're facing. So that 43 plus prayer to have that protect from melee is pretty important. Finally, 52 plus summoning for the Spirit Terrorbird Beast of Burden. If you're free to play and trying to do this boss, don't worry about it. This is just a recommendation for those extra inventory spaces to bring extra food. That's going to make your trips a little longer. That extra food and having those extra inventory spaces allows you to stay down there longer and get as many kills as you can with extra food rather than having to run and bank. But it's not a big deal because the bank's not far anyway, as you're in the middle of Falador. That's really all the skills that are required to be able to defeat this boss. Obviously, higher stats are going to help you get faster kills, but they're not required. And these are even just recommendations, so you could definitely do it with lower skills. That's it for the skills, so let's just get right into the loadout and ability bar. Now for the loadout, I'm going to tell you about what I have in my backpack first, and then I'm going to go to my worn equipment, and then I'll go to my ability bar next. So for my backpack, I have my runes for casting my spells. The staff I'm using, you don't actually need them, but I just threw them in my inventory so you could kind of mimic this. I have my super magic flasks and my super defense flasks. This just gives me a damage boost while I'm in there and a defense boost. So it can be kind of helpful for having longer trips. And then I have super restore potions to restore my prayer that I'll be using when I'm within the dungeon. Now, if you are a lower level than me, which you probably are if this is your first time attempting this boss, you're going to want to bring more food than I have here in my inventory. I don't have to bring that much food as I don't take much damage, as my gear's a lot better than level 60. So I don't take any damage while I'm in there really, so I just keep those extra inventory spaces open for loot. Obviously, if you're going to be using a lot of food during a fight, you don't want to have those empty inventory spaces to stay as long as you can. However, it is really close to a bank, so just bring what you need and you can run back and forth to the bank every couple kills. It doesn't take up much time. Now, for my worn equipment, I have my Vampirism Aura. This is an aura that restores health to me when I deal damage. If you don't have it, no big deal. Then I have in Zami Cape, my Blood Amulet of Fury. This restores health to me. A Ring of Wealth. And then I have my Subjugation set from Zamorak, except I have a Anima Core Body of Saren, which is the tier 80 power armor that you can get. I have my Attuned Exoplasmator, just because I just always have it equipped. And then I have my tier 75 staff. Like I said, this is just my magic set of equipment. You don't need to have this good of equipment to be able to do this boss. I can get kills in 2.5 minutes, which is pretty quick for the mole, depending on what rooms you get and what mechanics happen during the fight. And then I have my War Tortoise, which is just my summoning familiar. That would be your Spirit Terrorbird if you have a low summoning level, just filled with food. And you don't need to stress it too much, as this is a really easy boss. Just equip what magic set of armor you have. Equip your staff or your staff and book, or your wand and book, and you're basically your best magic equipment or whatever equipment you choose to use. Now for my ability bar, this is just my basic Revolution setup. If you don't have all these abilities, don't stress it. Just move them down one or fill in with whatever ability you want. So for my first ability, I have Anticipation. This is a 10% damage reduction as well as resistance to stuns, which is really important for one of the phases of this fight. For 2 and 3, I have my AoE abilities, Chains and Dragon Breath. For 4, I have Sonic Wave. 5, I have Sacrifice. This is from the God Wars dungeon. If you don't have this ability, don't stress it. Just move 6, which is Impact, onto 5, and then follow the rest down in a domino effect. 7, on my ability bar, I have Rack. This is a stun. It's really important during one of the phases of the fight when the boss goes berserk. For 8, I have Wild Magic, and for 9, I have Asphyxiate. These are both threshold abilities. However, Asphyxiate is also a stun and a bind, so that's useful during a phase of the fight. For 0, I have Freedom. This is important for when you're stunned. This can get you out of your stun so you can start taking less damage. For the dash, I have Tsunami, which is a really good area of effect spell, but if you don't have this, just use another ultimate. If you don't have it, it's a high level spell. It's good for a certain phase of the fight where the boss spawns extra monsters, and it just takes them out really quick, as well as dealing damage to the boss. For my equal sign, I just have High Alchemy. I just always keep it there. You don't have to have it there. For the next 2 spells, I have Metamorphosis, which is just an ultimate, which makes you deal extra damage and save runes. And then I have Surge, which is useful for speeding up your kills when the boss teleports really far away from you. Now, obviously, if you're using ranged or melee, this is not going to be your action bar setup. However, there are some skills you should keep on there that serve a purpose across all phases of the fight and no matter what. So you should have that anticipation skill on there to keep that stun off of you, as well as Freedom to get out of a stun. Surge is always useful if you have it to speed up a kill. And then finally, those stun abilities that I talked about can stop the boss from dealing quite a bit of damage to you. That is it for the loadout and ability bar section of this video. I'm going to go move on to some useful items before I show you a fight, and then talk about the mechanics. So just really quickly, I'm going to talk about the Anti-Dragon Shield Mole. This is made by attaching a Clingy Mole, which is a drop from Hardborn Mole, to an Anti-Dragon Shield. It turns the Giant Mole's damage into a damage over time effect that can be dispelled with the Numbing Root. This can also be dispelled by exiting the cave. It just saves you from taking a lot of damage over the course of the fight instantly, rather turning into a damage over time effect, which can be then dispelled with the Numbing Root, which is also a drop from the Giant Mole. This is useful for tanking some extra damage when you're fighting. If you have low HP or something like that, you can just dispel it with those Numbing Roots. The Clingy Moles, the Anti-Dragon Shield, and the Numbing Root can all be bought on the Grand Exchange, so you don't have to fight the Hard Mode Mole to get these items. That's all I really wanted to say about these items. This is really the only useful items you can get that are realistically useful and aren't just really expensive or something like that. So now let's just get into the fight. The Giant Mole is located right inside the Faldor Park. You just have to climb down some roots. It's just south of the Lodestone in Faldor if you don't know how to get there. And then there's the bank just to south of the park. It's really easy for doing these runs. So to start your Giant Mole fight, you're going to want to crawl down these plant roots here. These are just inside the Faldor Park, right near the entrance. You can see where I am, right by the bridge. And then you're going to get the Instant System interface. This is where you can change the max players to do this with somebody else, change the minimum combat level if somebody wants to join you, and turn on Protection or turn on Hard Mode or Practice Mode if you're interested in that. Protection is just a pin for it, and then when you're ready, just click Start, and now you're going to be in the Mole's lair. This is what point you're going to want to set your quick prayers to melee so you can flick them on and off during the fight. When you're not actually fighting the mole, you're going to want to pot up using your super magic and super defense flasks. If you brought them, get your prayer all the way up, and then if you chose to have one, turn on your aura. Now you can get your aura through your worn items interface and just activate it when it's equipped. Once you have all this done, you're going to want to turn on your protect from melee prayer, and now you can fight the mole. Now the mole starts in the center chamber. This is center chamber phase 1. You're going to fight the mole until you get around 72,000 HP, and then the mole is going to tunnel to another room. You can tell what way the mole goes by the dust trail on the ground, as well as what direction the mole faces when it goes to dig. You want to make sure you're within melee range of the mole, or else you're going to get an earthquake kind of area of effect spell around you that's going to deal typeless damage for 200 very quickly. I'm just showing you an overview of the fight right now, and then we're going to get into the specifics of the mechanics of each room. I'm just showing you this so you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the mechanics. This way you're not going in blind and having nothing to reference towards. When you're running like this, it could be useful to turn off your protect from melee, just to save some prayer points. You don't have to have it on, obviously, when you're not getting hit by the boss, and those little baby moles aren't really going to do anything, so you can turn it off until you get back into melee range of the boss. As you can see, there is a little dust trail on the ground, which direction the mole goes, as well as the mole faces that way before it tunnels underground. The mole will visit each room one time during the course of the fight, and then when the fight is into the 5th phase, after the mole has visited each corner of the room, it's going to tunnel into the center of the room, and that's where the fight will end. Once the fight is over, the mole is going to drop mole bits, which are just mole skin and mole claws, as well as rarely a mole nose. So you can just pick all that up, along with her other drops, and that's the fight. So right now I'm going to talk to you about the mechanics specifically. There's a lot of information on this page, so I'm just going to read it to you. So as I said, the fight starts in the center room, phase 1. The mole is just going to attack you with a basic melee attack until it reaches around 72,000 HP. And then it's going to tunnel to another room, as you saw, as I talked about just when I was fighting it earlier. You can follow what room the mole goes to by the dust trail and the direction it faces when it digs. The rooms can happen in any order, so you just have to make sure you pay attention to that. Now for the northeast room, the ability that the mole is going to gain in this room is going to be a berserk ability. This is going to cause her to do more damage, but she can also be stunned. This is why those stun abilities were really important when I showed you the action bar earlier, as it can save you from getting a lot of damage. Now, the northwest room, the mole is going to gain the ability to summon small moles. These small moles, when alive, are going to increase her defense and max hit until they're killed. That's why those AoE abilities are really good, and why magic is also really good for this fight, as it has some of the best AoE abilities, being Chain and Dragon Breath, along with Tsunami. For the southwest room, the mole gains an Earthquake ability, whereby a 3x3 portion of ground becomes unstable, dealing 200 typeless damage very quickly. This is similar to her ability she uses when you are out of melee range. She's just going to spawn that under you, and you have to run towards her to get out of that. And then finally, for the southeast room, she's going to gain the ability to crumble the ceiling, causing rocks to fall on you and stun you with the initial impact. They will continue to hit you if you run away. However, if you are hit by the initial impact, that is going to be what stuns you. That's why the anticipation is important to use when you initially get into the southeast room, as well as freedom, if you do get stunned, so you can get out of that damage and start to run away. And then finally, the center room, phase 2, she's going to have all those abilities from each of the rooms she visited. And this phase begins around 13,000 HP, so there's 13,000 HP. You have to tank all those abilities at one time. Now, if you didn't pay attention during the initial fight, I'm going to show you what each of these abilities looks like and what to do when you see it, and how to avoid as much damage as possible. I'm going to start with the northeast room and go in order that you see on screen here, following all the way to the center room. So let's get into that now. So starting with the northeast room, she's going to have the Berserk ability. The Berserk ability is easy to see, as she gains a green aura around her when she activates it. You can see right there, and it's going to say above your head that the mole can now be stunned. This is when you're going to want to use your rack ability or your asphyxiate ability to stun her and save yourself some damage. And then once it's over, it's going to say the mole regains her balance. Now you can see it here, and then she's going to tunnel away to a different room. Now we're going to go to the northwestern room, which is the minion room. This one is very easy to see, but it is important that you take out her minions as fast as possible. So you're going to want to attack her in this room. Make sure you move into melee range. You can see I didn't. And it's going to say the giant mole calls for aid. It's going to spawn a bunch of little moles. You just want to use your AoE abilities here and focus the mole. The small moles are easy to kill with AoE abilities as they have low health, and the giant mole can deal a lot of damage, so you want to focus her and get her out of this room as fast as possible if you can. Sorry for the jump cuts here. It's how I have to do it. So next we have the southwest room, which is the earthquake room, where the mole is going to dig underground and cause a 3x3 square of earth to become basically damage if you stand in it. So you can see here she digs underground and comes up somewhere, and within the 3x3 area around that is where you're going to have that damage. You can see it just looks like a bunch of rocks on the ground, but they kind of shake a little bit. And I'll show you it again real quick just so you can see it. Digs underground, and you just have to make sure you're not standing in that so you don't take all that damage, as it actually deals more damage than the mole herself if you stand in there too long. Next, we're going to go to the southeast room and the final corner of the room before she heads to the center room. And this is going to be the crumble room. You'll know this is happening when your screen starts to shake, and it'll say in your chat box or above you that you hear a crumbling noise above. You're just going to want to move here. If you do get stunned, use your freedom ability, and I'm going to recommend you use your anticipate ability as soon as you get in this room to avoid any potential stuns. That way you can move. You can see here it says I hear a crumbling noise above me. I move, I don't get stunned. However, the rocks do follow you, so you want to continue to run if you want to not get hit by any of that damage. And finally, we have the center room wherein she uses all of her abilities here at once, so you're just going to want to do as much DPS as you can and down her as fast as you can to avoid as much damage as possible. Definitely use your ultimates and threshold abilities here to get her down, and once you're done, that's a kill. She's going to spawn in like 30 seconds, so just make sure you're ready again if you plan on doing another kill. Once you're ready, you're just going to climb up the vines that you came in with. Choose the first chat option, yes, I want to leave. And I'm going to tell you about Wyson the Gardener. Wyson the Gardener walks around right out here. You can right click on him and choose exchange mole bits. He's going to exchange your mole bits that are your mole skins and your mole claws for bird's nest, which can hold valuable seeds, and the bird's nest themselves are rather valuable when crushed for Ceradome and Bruce. That's going to be it for this video, guys. If that helped, be sure to leave a like, comment down below if you have any questions, suggestions, tips, or complaints. If I missed anything, let me know, please. Subscribe if you're not already, and if you're bored, check out some of my other stuff. I do boss guides, quest guides, and event guides. Thanks for watching.